because it was at the back end of the game and it had such massive implications, and from our point of view, it killed the series. I would have loved this week to be a decider. And you got to compete. Talk shit, like, dude, don't help them up off the floor, like all that type of stuff. Just grab your teammate. I think that's probably the next step or the next area where we can grow.
Why are you calling him the love muscle? I've never heard him called that.
I don't know, Finn Russell, the love muscle, he just looks like he'd go all right in the spud.
Yes,
that's the promo.
Whatever this is, yes.
Whatever this is. This is the Big Jim Show.
On this episode, I am joined by an Australian rugby great, a good friend of mine. And we've got a lot to talk about. It's the wonderful, the great Matt Giteau.
How are you, mate?
Very good. I'm in Colorado. I've actually got FOMO not being there, but mate, we'll roll into it. What is the lay of the land down there? Because from here, right, and chatting to mates and listening to other people, it's almost like the Lions isn't happening down there. I can't see that. If there's 90,000 people in the stadium in Melbourne and half of them are off to Sydney at the weekend, is there a Lions tour happening down there for Australians?
Oh, definitely. Like, as far as the crowd, you see the red shirts, like one red shirt that they've got that every supporter wears every day.
Stinking.
They're a little bit on the nose. But yeah, you notice them. They're here. They're huge. And for us, I mean, for me, like, as like a rugby lover and a Wallaby supporter, to have the excitement and the crowds and the sellout stadiums that we've had, even for the exhibition games, it's been good. I think the one on the weekend really was a test match, you know, like everyone felt like the atmosphere, the intensity at the game. That was as good as it gets, I reckon.
Gits, we've done the obligatories, right, just for the listeners. Me and you have gone back and forth. We're mates now. We're good mates now. So we don't need to do that. Let's get straight into the headline stuff, right? I've done my stuff for TalkSport. I don't know if you've done your hit on there. So from a British and Irish point of view, okay, from this side of the world, I know I'm in America, but from my fan base and from the Rugby Pod listenership and me and Goody and everyone else, no one thinks that that's a penalty. But everything else I'm seeing from Australia, front page, back page, apart from Campo, even David Pocock popped up on a political radio show, TV show, and he got asked about it. So it's doing the rounds. Tell me what you're thinking now the dust has settled. It will never settle, but now it's kind of died down a bit. Do you still think it was a penalty against the Lions and Australia should have won that game?
The problem with our game is it's grey. Like, you've got this grey area. So you're saying, even after the game, Andy Farrell said a great clean out. Joe Schmidt thought it was a penalty. Everyone in the UK, yourself included, thinks play on, it's fine. I believe that if that was earlier in the game and didn't have as big an impact or as big a decision, that it would have been a penalty straight away. There wouldn't have been any thought about it. And then everyone would have said, oh, that's a bit soft, but I think it was a penalty. Because it was at the back end of the game and it had such massive implications, and from our point of view, it killed the series. I would have loved this week to be a decider. I even think a lot of the Lions fans that are over here before the game they wanted their team to win, but they wouldn't have been upset if it headed to a decider, I think, you know, to maximise the series. But my take on is that I think that if it was early in the game, it's a penalty. Because it was the back end of the game. Yeah, I mean, Morgan Turanui's come out and basically said that the refs were too weak to make that call. I don't know if that was the case, but, I mean, it took some brass either way to make the call right or wrong. So my stance is, as I've said, I thought it was a penalty if it's early in the game. Back end of the game, probably still should be a penalty, but the implications that it would have had would have been pretty diabolical, I reckon. Well, it still was diabolical, but they're only really answering to one nation rather than four.
Yeah. We're 100% aligned on everything that you've just said then. And we're ex-players, right? You're one of the greatest who've ever done it. You've been in these big games. I've been in big games, not as big and not as decisive in terms of calls being made like that in games. I don't know if you've ever been involved in a game like that, but there's a good thing in all this, Gits. The casual fan is talking, right? And 12 years ago, it wouldn't have been like it is now on social media and the interactions or whatever. The casual fan is talking. The media has perked up from outside of our rugby sphere. This is all positive, right? And I think what people are struggling with, and being on TalkSport today, which is largely a football and boxing show, is trying to educate people on this grey area, right? And I understand what Joe Smith was saying, and I'm all for player welfare. Like, I am desperately wanting to see a change around how players are looked after, both in games and after games, and the amount of games and all of these things. To the letter of the law, which really it should be adhered to, and it isn't, because 90% of rucks and collisions look like that. It was a textbook clear out from Jack Morgan and how we're coached. Am I right in saying that, Gits?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if I was to be any other nation other than Australian, it's Welsh. So, I mean, the fact I'm being... Well, I think my opinion is just like, I think... Yeah, as I said, it's I've said my opinion. Keep going.
Yeah,
Sorry,
but it shows that we have a couple of big issues in our game because of this grey area, player safety, and Joe Smith's comments will go far and wide, right? He's an influential guy. He's coaching you guys, right? And I just think the confusion and the annoyance and whatever you want to call it with the social interactions, but let's just stick with the confusion, is that our game, there's many grey areas, but should there be a grey area when it comes to neck and head contact? Because I'll just say a few more things here, and then I'd just love to get your views on where we are with refereeing. And it is negative, and we'll try and find some positives towards the end of it. But, you know, when you look at our game, and we're so reliant on the referee, but then they've got the TMOs, I just think the referees are poor at the minute, and I'm mates with a few of them, and I love a few of the guys involved in the game. But Piardi's conversation and what he said over the ref mic was wrong, right? What he said was wrong. And also, Jack Morgan was off his feet. He hit the back of the neck. I keep saying, for me, it's not a penalty. But if a penalty was given, I would have been like, well, it was a penalty. And that's the confusion, do you know what I mean, in all this. I think the referees need to be better. I think the way in which they speak and they communicate, and we need to sort the breakdown out, because you can't launch off your feet, but 95% of rucks and collisions, you've played in games against New Zealand, right? That's how they lived off their feet around the breakdown. Yet the law says you can't go off your feet, and Jack Morgan was off his feet. So I don't know. I know this is quite negative, Gits, and I'm not contradicting what I've said, but I just feel as if our game, if we're gonna #grow the game, and we're really gonna educate the casual fan and bring people in, and also the safety of the game for parents and stuff like that are watching it and being like, what? So you can now hit the back of the neck and all of these things. So that's where I'm at. So give me a little bit more, Gits, on where we are with the referees, and, like, I suppose what the fallout or the changes could potentially be after this, because it's a massive thing, right? You guys have now lost the series. Who knows what's going to happen in Game 3? All the niceties of it going into the Game 3 would have been lovely, but give us kind of just that bit, and we'll start off with that.
Yeah, so I think, obviously, you touched upon the grey areas, but that is the problem with our game. So there's so many rules that are left for interpretation. So the way one ref sees it, the next one may see a breakdown or a ruck completely different. I feel they've crunched down hard on the neck roll. That's almost like, even when they're not dangerous neck rolls, there's some ways you can only get them off, as a player. You grab them around even underneath the shoulders, and you'll just try and twist them that way. It's not a neck roll, but it looks worse than actually what it is. So they're strict on that. It just seems like every year we've got something new that we're really focusing on, rather than just cleaning up the game and saying, okay, these are our priorities, let's just stick to that. I think the fact that it's left to interpretation makes it very murky. I've been to games with my dad, who is a league man, and he'll say, what was that for? Well, I played the game 20 years, and I'm like, well, I don't know. And then you'll wait, hear the explanation, said, oh, that's actually what it's for, but I saw it different. But it's just, that's just the game we're in. How we fix that, I'm not too sure. But, I do want to say the Lions came back from 23-5 down. To come back 18 points in such a big environment, a huge test, like tip of the hat to them. I thought they were immense. The game wasn't won or lost at this moment. There are so many other small moments throughout a game you can pinpoint, but this was the most obvious, because that call decided whether we go to a decider or whether the Lions have won the series. So I think a lot of our frustration back here is, and it's not biased, like my opinion isn't based on I would have loved it to go to a decider. It's based on what I saw. I thought that if it was earlier in the game, it would have been a penalty. But the frustration over here is now the series is dead. We could have had another big week talking about decider, getting more people excited around our game, which would have been massive leading into the World Cup. Whereas now it's a dead rubber. We're still going to get that great support, I think, from the Lions. But it's those fringe supporters that we have in Australia that if Wallabies aren't going well, they can support Rugby League. If League's not going well, you can go to AFL. Those people that sit on the fence, would have been great to get them across and see how great our game can be. You know, sold out stadium in Sydney with the chance to win a Lions series would have been massive. So I think a lot of the frustration back here has, you know, indirectly, a lot of the frustration is about that as well.
Give us a real summary and an honest evaluation of where rugby is in Australia, because I'm getting mixed reviews. You've got a World Cup there in 2 years' time. Everyone's talking about how important the Lions were. Test 1, you were poor, but in the Championship I saw an incredible Australia team with some brilliant athletes, and we saw that in Test 2. But give us a kind of general evaluation of where Ruggers is there.
Well, rugby is the fourth sport here. So as far as popularity, we're competing for it, you know, competing to try and get bums on seats. And I think the fact that we had the Lions supporters coming who travel thick, you know, they have helped, obviously, with the stadiums and whatever else. But yeah, I think, you know, it's a challenge. At the end of the World Cup 2023, I reckon we're probably at our lowest point. Joe Schmidt come in, he made some huge improvements. You've seen these players that couldn't perform in that World Cup 2023, but they're playing totally different under Joe. So the players, the actual players, when you talk to them, they're happy. They love the environment that he's created. They love being involved with the Wallabies. And you just see them. They look happy, and we were talking at the end of the year. You know, when you see the players down there, they're happy, they're mixing, they're themselves. So that's a good sign. But as far as rugby as a sport here in Australia, this Lions series is huge. We've also still got, I think there's 15 tests this year, and we're playing against, you know, 3 of the better nations in the Rugby Championship. Then we've got the end of season tour. So it's still a great opportunity. We can still build momentum, but we've just got to continue to grow. And if we do that, by 2027, I think that rugby will be back up there, you know, in the top 3 sports. But at the moment, it is a challenge. Like, I'm not going to lie. We, you know, it's on a subscription to watch the games. You don't have... The tests are free to wear, which is great. But a lot of the casual fans throughout Super Rugby don't get the chance to see these players. So then when they're watching the national team, they don't feel like they really know them. And I talk from a league kind of point of view, where you've got a lot of the games each weekend are free to air. You become familiar with the players, and when you watch State of Origin, you know them. When they represent the country, you really know them. So I feel like we're missing that little piece there, maybe getting Super Rugby free to air, educating the casual fan about the players and how good they are. Because at the moment, if you went and asked someone that knew nothing about rugby, they know a little bit about sports or whatever, you'd say, who plays for the Wallabies? The only one they'd be able to mention, I reckon, is Swali.
Do you not think it's strange? Maybe it's not. I find it strange that I'm 9 years on, 10 years on in this journey, and I'm sat here with the great Matt Giteau, who's now doing a podcast by himself, and we're talking about growing the game. And I was involved at Rugby Pass for so many years, setting that up with the Rugby Pod. Now I'm doing my own show here. Yet no one is having conversations, or maybe they are having conversations now about this like mass collaboration. And I don't believe in this mass collaboration. I believe in trying to find a solution, right? The collaboration is great because a lot of them are content creators, and a lot of it is born now out of desperation. We've got a lot of work to do in our game. This sounds so negative, such a negative podcast. Sorry, listeners. No, it is, but we've got a lot of work to do. I know we've chatted about it personally, and there are some really positive things that are happening. Has anyone asked you, Gits, as a legend of the game who played professionally for, 20 years, played all around the world, forget being an athlete, right? Forget being one of the greatest who have done it. Just as a rugby man who's been around the world, has anyone at a high level near the top table ever turned around to you and said, like, mate, what are we doing? What do you think? What do we need?
No, they haven't. But, I mean, from the top level, other than my opinion, it's not really educated from, you know what I mean, like all the way up. Your CEO levels, it's a totally business is very different from rugby. But as far as a rugby point of view, no, I haven't really. Other than, as you touched upon, we've got a podcast which we just try and talk about the positives around the game and just what we think. It's not really, no one owns it. Like we don't push any real direction that we have to. We just say what we think and. Yeah, that's probably the extent of it, to be honest.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying about the fact that you're not a businessman, I'm not a businessman. We're not CEOs of business, right? We haven't built Apple or a Netflix or a streaming platform and understand media and entertainment. I completely get that. I'm not saying that me and you fix these problems or whoever else is doing a podcast and passing judgment and passing opinion should be doing that. But I feel as if we're at this inception moment in the game now where there's really obvious things, right? And we have a feel for it as athletes. You're now seeing the rise of Alona Mayer being the most famous rugby player that we've ever produced, albeit not the best rugby player, right? Because she's built a brand effectively off that. Henry Pollock, the same. Okay, so he's not as good a rugby player as Josh van der Fleer, for example. He's close, but people are talking about him because he's built a brand and he's built some commercial currency around that. And I just think we're at this inception point now as Super Rugby comes back around, as the Premiership starts again, as this kind of URC with the South Africans teams, this European #/Champions Cup, whatever you want to call it. We still have all these disconnections in our game. And I think you look at the game at the weekend and you look at the international game and you look at the championship, our game is absolutely thriving and it is flying. And I just, being here and us having these conversations around it, and we've kind of gone off piece a little bit, I just think we're at this inception point now of looking at what we had at the weekend for that test, 90,000 people in the MCG, casual fans now speaking about it, the fact that the great David Pocock's on a political podcast and they're speaking about it, right? This is all positives, but there's still some fundamental changes that need to be made and also called out, and that's what I'm doing. I don't know if you call it out.
No. Like, I love it. I've never seen Big Jim. I like it. You must have had a couple of coffees. Or
no,
a whiskey,
I'm loving it. I'm loving the fact that the weekend's game was so big, and I am loving large parts of our game because I've thought about walking away from it, right? Oh, there's not enough opportunity for me in the media, or, you know, player safety's not there, or my job at World Rugby, I effectively got sacked or kind of moved on or made redundant, whatever you want to call it. I'm like, where am I going in this? And then I see the weekend, and then I see the championship round the corner, and I see the Six Nations, and I understand the size of the opportunity financially you see. Like, they dictate that all the pubs are going to be sold out, right? It's for not, our game is the greatest game ever. And that's why I'm pumped today talking about it. And, you know, you bring that out because you're a player, you're an athlete, we're doing it. We're doing this.
Yeah. Well, I think also you talk about the money that they brought in. Every place you'd go to for a pub, I had to do a TalkSport interview the day before the game. And even to find a quiet place where people are not heckling you, like heckling in good fun, but it's just the people that were around and getting noticed. Like normally throughout Melbourne, we could cruise through and no one cares, you know, whereas once you had the supporters in and all that money, the investment that they're bringing to Australia, it's huge. The sad part is kind of how we started it. So the casual fan, all we're really talking about is, the grey rules. Like, that one person saying this, one person saying that. There is a lot of beauty in our game, but unfortunately, the part that was highlighted at the very end was that grey area that we've got. So to come back to what you're saying, we need to get probably more clarity. Or if it's to be reviewed, that try, then it needs to be left out of the ref's hands, because that's why it got brought up on the big screen. Then you've got the letter of the law. I'm sure the TMO maybe had the rule book in front of him, and if that's what it was, then it's black and white. So that grey area we've just got to try and eradicate as much as we can, although that's also the beauty of our game, is that grey area. You know, the dark arts, being able to get away with a couple of things in the game. But yeah, I think great opportunity. It's been unbelievably refreshing to have the support, the talk, the eyes, everyone speaking about this tour to Australia.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, a short break, an ad, if I may, an ask, a plea. If you're enjoying the show, please stop what you're doing now. Go to the review, write a review, like, subscribe, share with a friend, and that way it grows the show. It's a plea, not a desperate plea. Let's get back to it. I had Johan van Gram on the Big Jim Show. The episode came out last week, and we were talking about the makeup of a team, Gits. So, like, how do you make a winning side? And you know it, I know it as well, but I needed someone else who is doing it from a coach's perspective, and Bath have just won the Premiership and the Prem Cup and the Challenge Cup as well, so they've had an incredible season. The Gainline was the number one thing. We spoke about the 9, we spoke about the 10, but the Gainline was the thing, the physicality, all of these things, right? We saw that at the weekend with you lads, Rob Valentini and Will Skelton specifically. Why did Joe Schmidt not pick them for Test 1? And how important are these? I'm going to say, I don't know whether Rob Valentini is Polynesian, but these athletes that we have in our game. Fijian. Okay, exactly. There you go. So these athletes that can get over Gainline of Polynesian descent or South African descent. How important are these players? Why didn't you play them for Test 1? Do you know?
Test 1, I don't think Bobby Valentini was ready. Will Skelton, maybe it could have just been that they thought we'll give him another week, get him ready, but I don't know if we really expected to be the collision area to be as tough as it was. You know, being able to even that very first test, I think our ruck speed ball on average was between 3 and 6 seconds. Test level for you to make any impotence in the game, you need like 1.5 seconds without getting too technical. So those extra 4.5 or 3 seconds, you know, you can test, you fan out, and then they just blitz again with their rush D. So that's what made it tough. But having those two bodies in, it wasn't even just the way they played, because they were both immense, but I think it's the confidence that they gave everyone else around them. You saw a lift in a lot of, especially the forward pack, you saw a real lift in what they put out in Test 1 to Test 2. And then off the back of quick ball, you can see Jakey Gordon getting out. I think the first 3 minutes he got out, made a little half break. He then scored a try, scooting, around there, off quick ball, being able to test the forwards. And I thought Lionel was a lot better too off the back of front foot ball. But yeah, as a ball player, you just need quick ball. If you've got quick ball, you can't really make too bad a decision. Maybe an intercept is the only thing that you can do bad. But other than that, if you've got front foot ball, you've just got the defence waiting. And as soon as they wait, you can pick your option, which is exactly like Finn's doing. I mean, you talk about Bath there and their success. Like, a lot of it comes off the back of him. And watching the way he's played this tour has been immense.
Yeah, he's been incredible. There are a few rumours that Joe Schmidt doesn't like players that go off script. And again, only based on rumours and talking to my inner circle, I'm going to call him Bobby Valentini, but Will Skelton, Tupou, are players that kind of go off script. Is there any substance in that or not?
I don't know. Honestly, hand on heart, I've not heard any of that. I'd find it hard to believe when you got someone like Tom Wright. I'm watching Wrighty and I love the way he moves, but it's unpredictable. He scans the defence, especially off counter-attack, and then he'll skip or do something. So he wouldn't be your typical Matt Burke type fullback. I mean, Matt Burke, one of the greats, but he would, if he's in his area, he just plays the percentages, and he's obviously got that freakish ability that he did for the Wallabies for so long. But you can kind of see one guy's super unpredictable, and the other one, you know what you get with Burkey. So that's the first I've heard of it, and I don't know, I'm not too sure, mate, honestly.
I'm going to ask you a big question now.
Here we go.
Can Australia win the World Cup in 2 years' time?
Yeah, I think we can. We can, but we've got to continue to develop. So we were talking with George Gregan yesterday for our pod, and he, just a couple of little gems where he's talking about, he said, anyone you play in Test rugby is good. So if you give them an opportunity to come back in, they're going to take it. So when Australia went 2 tries in front, and they just weren't clinical enough getting out of their half, just putting that half to bed, he said that's the big growth area. Being able to put that together for 80 minutes, keep your foot on the throat and keep that intensity. It's almost, when I was playing with Griggs way back, if we saw a weakness, he would reinforce, let's go, like now's the time to really dig it in. So he just would not take the foot off the pedal. And he won everything there is to win, and there's a reason, because he was competitive and he was clinical at what he did. So I just reckon that's the big growth area for us. It's just being able to consistently put great performances together and full matches. We always are good at bouncing back when the media gives us plenty of shit, but that's you can get motivated very easily when you've had a poor game. It's trying to stay motivated after you've had a good game and then another good game and then putting a season together. And we've definitely got the talent and we've got the players as we saw on the weekend. But it's just trying to get these younger guys now putting in consistent 80-minute great performances. But we've definitely got the talent, I think, to win the World Cup.
Yeah. I go with my old school view of the Tri-Nations. I know it's the championship now. Let's just stick with the Tri-Nations with South Africa and New Zealand. Probably your fiercest competitors, right? You play them every year during the championship, but like history will tell you that. What are they doing different to Australia that has given them the kind of longevity of success and also the position? I know there's issues going on in New Zealand with player participation, but specifically on the field, what are they doing different to Australia?
Well, I reckon that full, no lapses really. I think being good and there's a difference between being good and great, and I think that great is what we're chasing at the moment, that full, no lapses really, no lulls. You get to a good lead and then we kind of just take the foot off rather than keeping that intensity going. So that's probably one thing that we'll probably learn from those bigger nations, well, not bigger nations, but the ones that are higher on the ladder than us or the rankings. But I think also depth as well. If we lose a couple of players, you kind of saw it. Test 1, Test 2. It's just we kind of need to have more depth, more competition for spots. And you know it's like when you're in a tough, even Super Rugby team or club team. If you've got a really good second row sitting behind you, it's going to make you work hard. You never feel comfortable. So I feel like once we can create competition for spots and that depth, like a really complete, strong 30-man squad, that's probably our biggest area, I think, to get better and to make us super competitive at that World Cup.
Did this Lions tour, do you think, come a couple of years too early on this cycle of growth for Australia?
No, I don't think so. I just think we were caught on the hop in that first test. I think this third test will be, a real telling point for your question there. Like if we can put these second performances back to back, then that first one was we're probably just caught, not underdone, because everyone was saying you knew when the Lions were coming and you only had one test or whatever it was. I don't think it was the actual test games that we missed. It was just, we didn't know what to expect. And their line speed was more than we thought. In the exhibition games, they didn't compete at the breakdown. First 20 minutes, they went hard, slowed our ball, threw us off. And then we found it really tough or challenging to get into that game. So this test will be a big one, I think, to determine whether you're right or I'm right. But I think it's come at the right time. 2 years before the World Cup, getting everyone excited about the game again, getting those casual fans watching rugby again, and I suppose being proud or even enthusiastic about our Wallabies. So I think it's come at the right time.
Is Test 3 as important as Test 2 now the series has gone to the Lions? How important is it?
Well, I think it just, if we lose or get beat convincingly, then everyone said, the Lions were just off game 2 or whatever. So I think just for for the sport or even just for the, the brand of rugby, to show that we are a good team. Like we're competing against four of the best, one of the four of the great countries in our rugby landscape all put together. And we've got a young squad. It's a huge event. This is massive. Even the hype, the build-up, all that, maybe that had something to do with Game 1. Game 2, they're learning from it. Game 3, we need to... we've got to win, hopefully make it 2-1, not a clean sweep, but at least just go out there and play, which is easy for me to say because I've felt incredibly flat after that result. And I could only imagine, for me to come, even going up to watch the game, I'm going to go up and watch it, but I'm just whereas every other test I've been super excited. It's going to be hard for those players to get back up, put in that same intensity when you know that what you're playing for is really just pride. You're not actually playing for a trophy anymore. So that's kind of tough. And for the Lions, they'll be incredibly motivated, I think the first sweep, has there ever been a Lions sweep? So this could be the first one.
It was long before we were born or even thought about.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you know, with these things, Gits, and you know what it's like. You do try and dig out psychological like motivations and these different things. And we knew that test 2 that you boys would be coming out of the blocks how you did, right? Desperate men, I called you. I don't know if you watched the press conferences after with poor Harry Wilson and Joe Schmidt, and they're there getting asked the questions, and you can hear, I don't know where the changing room's almost backed onto the press conference. Have you seen it? And you can just hear Oasis blurting out and the songs. It was embarrassing, actually, to be fair. I don't know how you can expect a coach and a captain to do that in such a big game. Maybe it was on purpose. We don't know.
No, but that's the way it is. Like, I remember even your big games, if you won away from home and you knew they'd be doing a press conference, you're in there banging the walls, like, you know, you want to show it. Like, I think Joe would have experienced that before, Harry definitely as well. You know, I've been there before where you're just sitting answering questions, you can hear everyone behind you singing, and that's what stings. That's almost like the burn that you need, especially for Harry and Joe, whereas the rest of the players probably didn't get exposed to that same. So, yeah, it's a big challenge for Schmitty this week. Hopefully he gets the boys. I mean, he'll definitely get them up. They're playing for their country. They'll be enthused, but it's just, from my point of view, I can really resonate with them. Like how flat, there's been such a big build-up for this Lions tour. For it to not go to a decider would be, you know, very flattening for the boys.
Do you know one thing I've picked up from this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, and this is maybe my view on Australian rugby, and I don't mean this to sound harsh, Gits. You are one of the greatest who have done it. Okay, a bit soft, Australia, and I say I'm picking up that because, like, you're talking about like position, you know, competition for like places and positions, and you look at South Africa and you look at New Zealand and you look at the Lions. You have got some see you next Tuesdays, right? And you've also got some mother beepers, right? I saw Will Skelton, former teammate of mine, grab Marotoji, and I saw it in his eyes. He was like, I am imposing myself physically on you, you beat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But and Australia's always had this kind of like nice undercurrent, like waltzing Matilda. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying it from an outside perspective, where the game has now shifted. It has. And Johan van Gram said it, Gainline, physicality, all the stuff that these lefties don't like hearing, right? That's what it is. Have you got enough of them coming through where it's like you've got street kids? I don't know where you get them from. Are they on the oil mines in the middle of Australia? Have you got these lads coming through or not?
Yeah, I mean, we do. I think the first test, you kind of, I think you really nailed it with Will. He did not care. And it's like there were teammates there that he was up against. He doesn't care. He's out there to compete. We're on the field now. Your mates and all that can I swear? Shit?
Oh, you can swear.
Can I say that? Yeah, fine. Yeah, all that stuff is like to the side. Like we're now competing. And that was like, for me, whenever I would play Coopy or Drew, like that for me was the grand final because they're my mates. They're going to have bragging rights. So I'm going as hard as I can. And I don't care really that Drew was the best man at my wedding. Like on the field, we compete. So yeah, I think Willie was that. He was pushing him. He was abrasive. He was just like, I'm here to stand up for my country, you know. Like, and even afterwards, you could see his interview. Willie did one on the pitch, and he was close to crying, you know. So it, I think that comes with experience. A lot of that. Like we've got a lot of young guys. If you look at someone like Henry Pollock, comes in, he tries to be the hard man, and Eru just ends him. So that you've got to get that balance right. But, you know, I think as a young player, you come in, learn your trade. Then when you're super confident of what you're doing, you don't need to take a back step while you're learning. But that's when you start to really impose and take the rest of the forward pack with you. So I think we've got some great leaders, some tough leaders. I think Alan Alatar, unfortunately, is injured this week, but he's been immense in this series. Yeah, I think, you know, obviously having Bobby Valentini, Harry Wilson's led as well, but Harry's more of a, you know, as I do, not really what I say. Like he'll just put his head down and charge through the game. But that abrasiveness, those see you next Thursdays, whatever you want to call them, like they're loved in the team. And that's what you need. You need more of them. Do we have enough? Probably not, if that's the perception. But you also still need to pick the best players, not just the biggest arsehole in the team, I think.
Yeah, as well, I'm starting to see, only go based on seeing Robert Whittaker from the UFC at the weekend. I know the UFC was over there as well. And there was a bit of pushback, not because of the UFC, because of some of the stuff that was happening around it. But I saw the Prime Minister come out, he might have been the Sports Minister, come out and say that, no, this is important to Australia, the commerciality. And I was like, are we starting to see Australia value violence? You know what I mean? Because you look at South Africa, you look at the Maori heartbeat of New Zealand, and not necessarily England, but Ireland and Wales, your working man, your coal miners, they value that aggression and that, as in, I don't give a fuck what people think. And that's what I mean. It's great that you've reiterated that. I saw that in Will Skelton at the weekend. Obviously, Rob Valentini. You don't play like that. I mean, if you don't value them skills, right? And I think that I'm looking at Australia, I'm looking at the NRL, and I'm like, right, okay, if our game is a physical sport, it's about Gainline, it's about motherfucker, all of these things, that you need to be bringing them through and also valuing that in young men.
Yeah, I mean, well, any game, even... Yeah, I don't play an aggressive style. I never used to. I never did. I think I even played one aggressive game. But your mindset is still, you've always got to earn the right. You can never go into a game just thinking, we'll just outplay them. We'll go around them. It doesn't work. You know, first and foremost, it's one up front. You've got to earn the right to go wide. So any first plays or whatever, you might have a trick play, but you know that you've got to get through them. You've got to be ready for that physicality. I mean, I always knew it was going to come, whether it's through my first carry or the very first line out of scrum play I knew was coming at me. So you got to be ready for that that physicality, and you've got to embrace it, because there's no way you can get through Test rugby without, and get through it well, by avoiding that physicality, or the pretty much the basics of rugby, of our game. You've got to win it up front. You've got to get physical, and you've got to compete. Talk shit, don't help them up off the floor, all that type of stuff. Just grab your teammate. I think that's probably the next step, or the next area where we can grow. Just starting to turn, and in a controlled way, not arrogance, because you can see bad sportsmanship. I'm not talking that. I'm talking about just having confidence in your team, the right amount of arrogance for your team and for the sport. But just go out there and play, compete. And then see what happens.
Yeah, it's a great way of putting it. Gits, last question then, and you might not be bothered by this, but the fact that you played in France, you might give a good opinion. So there are talks of the evolution of the British and Irish Lions. There are question marks after the South Africa COVID tour that it doesn't have a place in rugby anymore. I firmly don't believe that. But there are conversations, they were around Argentina, but I'm more about France. You played in France there, you've got deep history in there. It would be pretty cool to have that, I suppose, as a I'm going to call you a casual fan of the Lions.
Yeah, no, I'm a deep supporter of the Lions, but I'm a deeper supporter of every other team. So yeah, I think every top 14 final I played, any top 14 normal game, you go to Brive, you go to Castres, and they're sold out. There's a massive appetite for rugby in France. You look at the top 14, it's just thriving, huge TV deals. So, yeah, I mean, in and around, I don't really know how it works or who you'd skip out. I'm also a firm believer in the history and tradition of the game, try and keep it that way, especially with something as deep a history as the British and Irish Lions. But if there was to be an off game or a trial where they played Argentina before they came over, or whatever, it just, as a couple of little games, maybe it could be like an British and Irish Lions invitational side, and it's 2 years in between each one, and you just pick one team. I don't know how it's going to work, but as far as the impact or how successful it would be, if it's in France, it's going to be huge. You see how big even Le Crunch is when they play in the Six Nations playing England. So yeah, there's no doubt that it'd be a success. I just don't know how it would work from logistics, or even which teams would miss out, or how it would work. But it would be a success if they went through with it, I reckon.
Yeah. I said that was my last question. This is the last question. One for the fans, Gits. Who's been the player of the tournament from a Lions perspective? I know it's only been 2 tests and we've still got the third to play.
I think the love muscle, Finn Russell, he's been... anything that's been good, actually, Gibson Park's been really close too. He's been immense. Just the 9-10, how they've controlled the game. Sheehan as well. I mean, it's hard because as I'm talking about how good the love muscle was, all these other names are popping up. So
Why are you calling him the love muscle? I've never heard him called that.
I don't know. Finn Russell, the love muscle, he just looks like he'd go all right in the spud. So I think we just.
I'd say how you go all night, mate. Built like a shrink, but he can go.
We just come up with the love muscle. Yeah, he's class. Like when the ball's quick, he's on the front foot. His goal kicking's been great. Defensively, he's done everything he needs to. High balls, when they've even tested him there, he's been good. So he also just looks like he's confident. You watch him in the warm up, and it just looks like just having a warm up with the kids. Like he's ready to roll. He's just a footballer. And I kind of like that, you know?
Yeah, that's great you're saying that, because there was a little bit of pressure for Finn going in the relationship or non-relationship, I don't really know, around his interactions with Johnny Sexton when he got brought into the coaching team. So the fact that you've mentioned Finn, me and Goody were talking about on the Rugby pod as well, if the Lions were going to win, it would be down to Finn, probably Jamison Gibson Park as well. But yeah, he's phenomenal. And I think you look at, and he'll say it, the lack of success when it comes to winning tournaments for Scotland. I know how important this was for Finn. So, yeah. Has he been well received down there, has he? They'd love him down in Australia.
Yeah. Well, I think everyone... You can't not like him, you know? Like, you can get the shits with him playing well as an Aussie, but then away from the pitch, every interview he does, he's just relaxed, he's himself. And then I've run into him a couple of times at the bars, and he's up for a good time as well. So, he's a guy you can't hate.
Exactly. Just give us a quick prediction for the weekend, then Test 3.
All right, I'm going to go Australia will win, but they'll win 28-27 this time. We'll get a penalty and we'll knock it over.
Oh, let's see. Does it matter, Gits? It does matter. It matters to you.
It does matter. Yeah, it definitely matters.
It does. The great Matt Giteau, thank you so much, mate. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Big Jimmy.